Welcome to Manawaker Studios Flash Fiction Podcast. I'm CB DeRogi. A quick note before we begin. Please consider supporting Manawaker Studio with a purchase of one of our books or games. Find out more at manawaker.com. This week, Cookbook, Frypan, Stop Leak by Jesse Glass. When I was leaving home, my mother gave me a 1941 cookbook and an old greasy fry pan that weighed about as much as a medieval hand cannon, loaded and primed with black powder and stuffed with fourpenny nails. Although the iron fry pan was as meticulously washed and dried as my mother could make it, it still had about it the accumulated archaeological layerings of ham fat, egg spatter, home fries cooked in melting icebergs of lard, hamburger, burnt onion drippings, flapjack butter slicks, and picnic chicken grease scrims, so that running one's fingers over it one could have almost guesstimated the tree-ring consecrations of cholesterol that were to slow and diminish the thinking and shorten the lifespans of those I was about to leave behind. My father kept himself busy in the barn doing the needed manful things around the stock, while my younger brother and I took the boxes and loaded them into the junkyard T-Bird that the Norcrosses had given me for free for a summer of lawn mowings. The one that had the drip in the radiator that only a steady dumping of stop leak could slow. And it was then that my father came up from the barn just in time to see my mother hand me the fry pan and the cookbook and then combust into tears and hug me. What I didn't expect was that my father also began to weep. This, understand, was a man I'd never seen cry in my whole life, and there he was crying along with my mother, and it quite frankly freaked me out. It was the equivalent for me of seeing a UFO up close and for real, or of seeing a spider skip or a chicken pass wind. This strange sight, like a three-headed cat saying howdy-do, offered me a look at a totally hidden, unsuspected side of my father, who was not the most talkative about what he felt except when he woke up in front of a John Wayne movie on the television, or the most demonstrative of love, or of any of that sort of stuff, but still, his tears jarred something way back in my memory, and somehow I was giggling a lot, and he had just come home from a night shift, and he was holding me up next to the ceiling so I could touch it. And another time, when it was snowing terribly outside and I was warm and in bed with my mother, he came in with his coat open, his galoshes on, the snowflakes still on his hat and shoulders, with a small package, a toy that my grandmother sent me from Baltimore. I opened it up and there were two plastic knights on horseback with wheels you could wind up and make joust. But it was too cold to get out of bed, so I just held them and looked at them from time to time while my mother and father talked and laughed and the snow from my father's boots melted on the floor. I collected myself and shook my father's broken-up, scarred, and leathery hand, and he smiled and wished me the best and told me I could always come back and count on him, and my mother hugged me and both of them walked me to the car, and I said I'd call them as soon as I got to the city. I told my younger brother he could have my silver dollars and the black and white Polaroid camera that he'd always secretly coveted too. Then we took part in another round of goodbyes, this time more formal, my father checking his wristwatch because he had to haul horses to Eiler's auction that night so the Amish could bid on them, dropped behind the steering wheel and headed off on that late August day, about 20 cans of stop leak stowed behind my seat. Girlfriend promising to write, she never did. The setting sun in my eyes until I found the interstate and turned right, and that iron fry pan and cookbook destined, I just knew, for better things. This has been Cookbook, Frypan, Stop Leak by Jesse Glass. The Flash Fiction Podcast theme song is by Kevin MacLeod. I'm CB DeRogi. Thanks for listening. Episode 0116, production copyright 2016, CB DeRogi and Manawaker Studio.